Hello everyone, today we're gonna be actually once again on our laptop because today we're gonna be talking about how I edit travel photos. I'm talking about everything that you do in travel, people, animals, cityscape, landscape, and how I edit my photos to make them look better than they would be if you just, took the photo and uploaded it straight on Instagram or Facebook or anywhere else. Major like 5 or 6 things that you should remember about when editing the photos is we're on our Lightroom right now, and the best thing is, a lot of people are gonna say, I don't have Lightroom, what should I do? Well, you can actually have Lightroom on your phone, on your mobile phone device. There's Lightroom now available. It's free and it has pretty much the same things like highlights, shadows, clarity, vibrance, all that kind of stuff. I know it's a little bit easier on computer with a mouse and keyboard, but you can do the same thing pretty much on your mobile phone. So you can take a photo, edit it on the phone, and upload it from there. So let's get started. As you can see, I have picked out a couple photos from Tenerife, Croatia, and Athens on different cameras. DJI Mavic Pro, like this one. We have a photo on Panasonic G7. We have a Nikon, I don't remember which one it is, an older model. And then we have on Panasonic G9. So we have like different sensor, different things, but the same rules apply. What are the 5-6 couple things that I do to make my photos look better, pop a little bit more, and make them look a little bit better, a little bit more eye-catching? Because on Instagram, you're gonna see that they have like a lot of details, a lot of colors, and there's still a couple things that people forget about. First thing you would see in this photo, wrong thing, is the horizon. And that is, a lot of people don't even think about this, but you can actually go to auto and it's gonna auto correct the horizon, but I like to use this straight into all. Why? Because that is making sure that it is not based on luck if the computer guessed it right. So as you can see, right away, much better to have the horizon straight and not crooked. Then, for example, on DJI Mavic Pro, the things you're gonna move is highlights to the bottom to get a little bit more details, shadows to the bottom to get a little bit more like, contrast here, and then clearance up. It takes away the color, but you're gonna go for vibrance and add it back in. And this is how I would edit this photo. That's simple. This is how I edited this photo before, after you can see the horizon, but before, after looks much nicer. Why it's like this? It's JPEG. That is the reason that is a little bit different. It's from the Mavic drone, and because of this, I had to pull the shadows back down. That is actually the only place I'm gonna go with highlights and shadows to the bottom. Normally on the camera, you're gonna go for a different approach. So that's how I did it. One question, why vibrance and not saturation? Because with vibrance, you actually don't start making yourself orange. If you look at this, we're starting to get orange if I move the saturation, so I moved the vibrance. We can always go for a little bit more saturation, and boom, very blues, orange sand like it was there, greens, and all that kind of stuff. Looks much better than it was when it got captured. But let's say this one is from Nikon, and here, first things first, like I said, once again, a little bit more cutting. And let's be honest, if I had more time, or if you're just doing it, you can always make sure this is like dead center on. I'm just gonna leave it like this, maybe a little bit to this side, maybe a little bit to this side. Like this is actually a trial and error until you feel like it is in the right spot. You have to feel like that. Let's say this is okay. Let's get a little bit, maybe like that. I'm just gonna leave it like this. Now, the things that I do, the 5 things that I do is 5 or 6, let's see. Highlights always to the bottom to get the details from the highlights. Shadows always up to get the details from the shadows. In this photo, you're not gonna see that as much because it's on a Nikon that has a NEF file, which I don't really know how it works. So clarity and then vibrance up. You see, everything I have on turned from gray to blue. We can actually fix that if you go to aqua or actual blue saturation and down. The only thing, it actually changed my blue shoes to gray shoes. Makes a nice outfit anyway. So that looks good. I would say I would keep it like this. Can we change it? So can we just see how it looked like before and after? A little bit more greens. I would actually go for a little bit more greens maybe saturation a little bit. And now I think that is how it looks. Okay-ish. It looks really much more punchy with that green here than it was before. Moving on, we have this one that is from Panasonic G7, and that is a $500 camera, micro four thirds, very good for starting out, on a tripod, and Tenerife on Musca Village. We were in Musca Village, but as you can see, there's a lot of highlights, a lot of shadows. So first things first, highlights, bomb, shadows to the top. Look how much detail we have gotten back from just moving those two sliders. Look how much better it looks like. You can see all the details, even the face is a lot better. And nice detail here in the highlights where you didn't see anything. You can now see the other island that is very close to Tenerife, which is really cool. Now, clarity and vibrance. As you can see, just moving that 1, 2, 3, 4 things in this example changed this photo from being like this to being like this. Looks much more eye-catching, much more colorful, much more good looking. That is, like I said, very quick editing, just 4 touches, 1, 2, 3, 4. You can always do, like, you know, temperature and everything, play around, but that is right away you see if that photo is any good, if it's even worth going. So for animals, as you can see, it's a very colorful bird. So why not just have shadows up, bring a little bit more detail like on the chest and the highlights down. We can always get a little bit more details if we go for exposure up to get a little bit more of him. Clarity to make it a little bit more sharp and just more pronounced, and vibrance. And look how the colors return. And you know, there is a fine line where you have to remember where to go, but here, just an example. As you can see, the colors are back. The greens behind him, you know, the blues, like purple blues, I guess, and like orange, yellows, and greens on him. Look how the difference it is there. If you were to post this, you would be like, okay, a bird, but this colorful bird, that is the difference you have to work with. So, promotion on Panasonic G9. Better sensor, more megapixels, more details. As you can see, pretty good photo. A lot of people would be like, yeah, I'm gonna post this, but even on phone you could just go like shadows, once again, highlights, and we have much more detail right away. That is, so right away you can see much more detail. Then a little bit clarity, and then vibrance to get the color. And to be honest, if I'm honest, this is how Croatia looked for me. That is how it looked like. Very green, very blue, very nice sunny weather. Looks really good. I would say like that is how I would edit it. You can always get in a little bit more temperature to maybe make it a little bit more orange, but I think, yeah, it's gonna be fine. I think I'm gonna change it like this, a little bit more blue, or should I see? Really depends. But as you can see, it's promotion in the back there. Really cool place, highly recommended. And as you can see, just 1, 2, 3, 4 things that I changed, and it looks much better right away. So moving on, another from promotion, once again Panasonic G9, and as you can see, it doesn't change that much this time, but we're still gonna go over and do the same thing. Highlights like to the bottom, shadows to the top, clarity, and then vibrance to get the colors back. But I'm gonna actually go and put a little bit more exposure because it was a little bit too dark. I made a mistake while taking the photo where I put the exposure too low and it was too dark. You want to, ideally you want to have as good photo as you can while taking the photo. If you mess up like I did here, well, I had to resort to putting more exposure, but I think it turned out good. It's a very nice photo, and look, from a very grayish, not very colorful photo into a sunny Croatia. This one is really cool. I really like this one because on the surface it looks okay, nice building. You see a little bit of a tint of orange here. Look now. Shadows up, highlights down, clarity up. With buildings you can get a little bit more clarity. It doesn't really have a problem. It's worse if you use it when there's a person in frame. And then vibrance up. And in this case, I'm gonna use saturation. And look what happens. The orange here looks really cool. The blues here, the greens here. And look at the difference. From this to this. That is, in my opinion, a nice difference. A lot more eye-catching. Another one, here you can see it's crooked. So first things first, we're gonna take the line, do it like this. So that is something that is gonna make it look like it's straight. Now, like I said, couple things. Highlights to the bottom, shadows to the top, that's 2. Clarity a little bit up. Maybe I did a little bit too less in shadows. And then vibrance up, and look at the photo. 4 things: highlights, shadows, clarity, and vibrance. And you can try this out with your smartphone if you don't have Lightroom. You can always import your photos or your raw files even into the Lightroom on your phone and get going with that kind of editing, because it's really simple. And look how much it brings more. Like, this is actually a sun in Croatia, how I remember it and how people will enjoy it. These 2 photos that I'm going to show you right now is from Trogir in Croatia, and I was astonished at how much of a difference there was. Those 2 photos, this one and this one, when I saw them, I was like, what the hell have I done? What was I thinking about when doing those photos? But then, a couple days ago, it got me. I was editing photos again, and I'm like, let's see if we can do something about this. And you can see the difference of me editing a year ago and today. Just doing the same thing. Highlights to the bottom, shadows up, clarity up, vibrance up, and we could even pull a little bit whites down to get more here. And look at the difference. Just 4 sliders. We can actually add in a little saturation, because that's buildings, it's easier. Look at this difference. That is a huge difference in my opinion. So, to make this even better, look at this photo. When I saw this a couple days ago, I was like, what have I been thinking about when I was taking this photo? You can't see anything, it's like blown out, at the same time it's underexposed, everything is dark. Well, highlights down, shadows up, clarity, and vibrance. But it's okay, but let's add in a little bit more exposure to get the darker areas a little bit more exposed, get the highlights a little bit less, and look what we have here. We went from this to this. Look at the difference it made when editing. Just how many slides did we do? Exposure, highlights, shadows, clarity, and vibrance. 5 things that made this photo turn into this. If this doesn't excite you, I don't know what will, because in my opinion, just 5 sliders to make something really not too good, make something really good. Same thing here. Shadows, highlights, that's actually shebang in Croatia. Clarity, vibrance. You can always get a little bit more saturation to make it a little bit more orange. And look at that. Once again, we go from a black and white almost photo to a very colorful photo. This one is one I really like. First things first, I don't know how I shot the horizon, don't ask me about that. You can use the auto, but I think let's go with the hand straightening, because you're sure it's gonna be better, or at least it should, but I messed up and it's not as straight as I would like it to be. Let's do it again. Okay, it should be better this time. Okay, so you would say, but man, it's overexposed here, underexposed here. What are you gonna try to do with this? Well, shadows up, highlights down, even whites a little bit down, clarity up, vibrance, and look at this photo. Look at before and after. We can actually add in a little bit saturation and maybe a little bit more orange to make it a little bit more orangish, maybe. I'm not sure if I like that more or less, but let's say we're sticking with that. Look at the difference. How much does what did we change? Highlights, shadows, clarity, vibrance, and temperature, I guess. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, actually more. Temperature, highlights, shadows, whites, clarity, and vibrance. 6 things in this photo made it from this. Pretty much, you don't see anything in the sky, nothing in the water, nothing in the greens. Boom! Blues, greens, highlights, shadows, everything. Really nice photo. I like the hair here, how it turned out. But as you can see, that is the power of the 5 slides, 6 slides in that case. Here is a photo from Athens, and I like what happens here when you change the settings. First things first, if you actually put in highlights, you can see that there's 2 things that could be. This was the sun from my lens bouncing off the lens onto her, or it was like a lot of times we have a bee or a fly flying by and we take a photo, it is in there. So one of the things. Second thing, highlights down, clarity up, vibrance up. But have you noticed how this turned into blue? and I'm not really a fan of that, so I'm gonna actually go for saturation once again, and then blue a little bit less, just so it's kind of there but not overwhelming. We can always get a little bit more red, maybe a little bit more green because there's a lot of greens, and I think that is how I would change it. A little bit more changing, but it's still, look at the difference. It took us how many seconds to make from this to this. Or actually, there's one thing I forgot to do because I remember that I actually did it before. A little bit orangish, and the temperature fixed this a little bit, even maybe a little bit too much, but as you can see, just changing the temperature just slightly makes the photo already different. And like I said, you have to experiment with this. And what will you get? Well, you'll see. It's just experimenting, like those couple things that I change around, and then if I like it, I'm gonna say like, okay, I like it this way, I'm gonna leave it. But look at the difference, the colors, the everything. Last but not least, here you would say it's crooked. How am I gonna change it? There's two places. Here, or I found a nice detail here. These tiles. If you straighten this out, you're gonna be having a straight photo. First things first, highlights to the bottom. Next thing, well, guess what it is? Shadows. Then, if we get from the shadows to the clarity, and then vibrance. And you will say, well, it is a change. Well, actually, it's a more change if you look at it that way. But there's one more thing. Let's get a little bit more orange color, and look how it looks like now. In my opinion, that looks pretty nice. You could always go for the eye and try to have it a little bit more. I know that works really nicely. And like right here. And now we have to actually, I don't know why it does this, but let's say like this, clear all of that. Sharpness, okay, let's say it's gonna be 50 because I don't care. 0. But I wanted to have more saturation, that's first off, and exposure. I want the eyes to be exposed a little bit more. Okay, let's see how it looks like with exposed eyes. Okay, maybe I overexpose the eyes, but you get the point. Play around, have fun. Look at the eye now. Much more eye-catching. You see what I did there? As you can see, the eye is a little bit more bright, so you can actually see a little bit better. As you can see, this is how I edit my photos. It isn't too long. It takes me a couple minutes to get each photo done. And if I weren't to be talking and showing you why I do every single thing, I guess I would do those couple photos in like a matter of 2 minutes. So think about this next time you're actually gonna be posting your photos or doing something. Maybe it's good to, check out Lightroom on your phone or your computer. And added just like those couple things: shadows, highlights, clarity, vibrance, temperature, and straighten the horizon or straighten it out, and it looks much, much better. So that's gonna be it for today. If you want to check out my Instagram with those photos, it's gonna be linked below. If you want to check Travel the World, a travel community, is gonna be linked down below. Also, my gear is linked below, and that is gonna be it for today. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something new today. Maybe there's something that you're gonna actually like to use in your own photo editing. Or maybe you just learned that there's Lightroom for free on your phone, and you can do exactly what I did on your phone. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I hope you guys enjoyed this video once again, and I'll see you next time.